Okay, as I promised, we are doing this super cute lighthouse. We did this one last week, or last video, so now we're gonna do the next page. So if you don't already have your own landscape watercoloring book, I'll put the link in the comments. The paper is so good. Every page is framed to an 8x10, so that if you love it, you can frame it, which is awesome. So I can kind of put a smaller version of this on the screen if that's helpful. Or maybe I'll just slide it. That's probably a better option. There we go. I can see both. Okay, so what I have is a folded paper towel. I like to fold my paper towels because it just soaks in more of your water. Medium round tip brush. This is a size 10. I sell packs of these round tip brushes. They work great. And I also am using a 24 color paint palette with both sides as a mixing. I have this on my website as well. Super awesome. I have loved it so far. So let's get started on this cute thing. Okay, so what I'm gonna do first is the sky. So really what I'm doing is I'm kind of working in sections. So my first section is gonna be this blue area around. So I'm grabbing my water and I'm just filling in clean water. I have a little bit of blue in my water, but I'm okay with that. It might make it easier for you to see where I've painted so far. Just loosely putting in my water. The reason I'm doing this is because it really makes it easy to blend those colors into the sky to make an organic, beautiful, blended sky. So kind of got to be a little bit more careful around the edges of this lighthouse. Because wherever your water goes, your color will go too. So be aware of that. If you want painter's tape, you can do the link in the on the book. It is super helpful, like if you cut the page out and you want to tape it to your desk, that will help the warping, because any watercolor paper, when you add a good amount of water onto your page, it does create a little bit of warping, but this paper actually does pretty well. So I'm not going to tape right now, but I did fill that first layer in. So now that we have that, I'm grabbing my colors. If you want to mix your colors beforehand, you can do that too, but I'm just grabbing this darker blue, and I want my top color to actually be more of like a purple. So I'm adding in some red. Let's see. Really like how that turns out. Here's a little scratch piece I used before on my last video. Ooh, pretty. Okay, so I'm dropping this color in to the top, and you see how it just kind of flows in. Super pretty along the top. And then I'm gonna drop in this second color. I really love this palette because the colors are just stunning without even mixing them. A lot of the other palettes that I've used, I feel like I'm mixing so many. But this, I'm just gonna drop straight from what I have. So I'm kind of just letting the two colors blend together. Just like this. And then as we get lower, let's see. Yeah, as we get lower, I'm just dropping in this more vibrant blue and letting it kind of make its way down. Because I'm working a little bit slower than usual, my paper is already starting to dry. So that's why I had to grab my brush and dip it in the water to kind of help things move. You know what I'm saying? Just like that. Really pretty. I do want more of a contrast up here, so I am gonna do this color again. Let's see if I add purple to it, how that goes. So I'm just adding more pigment than water this time so that it's not as diluted, and we'll see how that goes. So just a darker shade of what I already had, and I'm gonna drop it in and see. Pretty. Okay, so now that I have that, we're gonna let it dry and then come down into this lower section of color, which, as you can see in my original, I have more of a light blue. So just grabbing my water, framing in those clouds. So because this Lighthouse is a darker shade of, like, it's red, I'm not super worried that my water will get into it because that red color will just go over any of the lighter blue that touches it. But still try and be as careful as you can. And then I'm just grabbing this light blue, starting up here. See how the water kind of just like brings it down, and you can help move it along too. Typically, this is how skies will go. Up high on your page, you'll have your darker, deeper blues. And then as you get closer to the horizon, your blues will become less, they'll become more light blue, your typical sky blue that you think of. So I'm coming and dropping in color towards the bottom of these clouds and then just dragging it across. I am using horizontal mostly strokes and then letting the water just drop down where it wants to. Pretty. Okay, so we're gonna work on these clouds. So what you're gonna do is I have kind of a similar shade to this, but more diluted down. And then I'll be adding a little bit of like a pinkish purple color to make those clouds really look puffy and really pretty. So I have this and I'm just gonna kind of move it up and then add water to it. And it creates more of a dusty version. So I am leaving the tops of the clouds more white and coming in and kind of dabbing my color in towards the bottom. And if you want some of that bottom color to, like if you want this blue to go into the cloud a little bit, that is totally fine. And then I just kind of do this. If that's more dark than you want, you can just grab your brush and kind of pick up that color and dab it onto your paper towel. See how pretty that is? And bringing a clean brush around the corners kind of helps that blend to where there's not that harsh line in your clouds. You literally have a clean brush and you have it a little bit wet, but mostly you just dried it off on your paper towel, and that's what makes that fluffy look. So I'm gonna bring it up here a little bit. See what I'm saying? So harsh, then I clean my brush off, dab it, and I'm going along the sides of this shape. See that? Okay. That's my first color. And if you want to, you can grab your, I'm gonna use this color, but I'm actually gonna like blend it a little bit with what I have. Yeah. And drop in just a little bit of color. To the bottom. Maybe a little tiny bit to up here. So you're doing like little cloudy section on the bottom. Okay, so now that the sky's done, we're kind of moving around because we don't want the sky to blend in with what's happening here or at this horizon line of the water. So we're kind of going to be working on the mountain range. and we work lights to darks. So we're gonna find this color here and put that down first, and then we'll come in and do the shaded areas and then the greenery. So I'm kind of thinking I'll use this like skin color, and then I'll mix in a little bit of brown and gray. Or maybe just gray, let's see. Ooh, yeah, that got it just perfect. So if you don't have a skin color like this, like a light pink or like a peach color, then you can dull it down with your water and add like a gray or a brown. And then I'm just adding water to give me a little bit more to work with. And I'm not doing this top little section, but I'll kind of border it. And right here too, and down most of this. I'm just coloring in that same color. And we're gonna build. So putting this light color down first. I already ran out of it, so I'm grabbing more. And it's okay if it's not the exact same, because it's a mountain. Like, the colors are gonna be different throughout the whole thing. Okay. All right. So if you want to, you can add in some different colors right now. I don't love that brown. So I'll put that right here. Maybe we can add a little bit of red into it. Let's see what that would look like. Okay, so I'm like dropping in just randomly throughout, because it's kind of like a rocky, loose mountain range. Okay, so while that dries, let's check and see. Okay, we might be in the clear with this. Yeah, so we could work on this here. And I really like the more burnt red. So I have my vibrant straight red. And I'm gonna add in a little bit of black. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, I like that a lot. Okay, so first thing, I'm going to grab that, and it does have a good amount of water in it because I'm doing my base layer a little lighter and then I'll come in with darker. And let's do this big section first. We'll fill that in. Use the tip of your brush to get these really tight details. And then you can fill in the rest. So you can kind of see this little area of blue was not all the way dry yet, so it did bleed a little bit. And that's okay, it didn't go too far, so I'm just gonna leave it and wait for it to dry all the way, and then I'll just make that line even. I'll make it a little more crisp once I'm done. Okay. So I'm going to grab that same color red, but I'm just gonna have it be a little bit more pigment than water. So I'm making myself a new pile. And then adding black, and I'm making this one slightly darker to help with my shading areas. So let's see if this is darker. Not quite. Layering in general will make it really pop out. So I have that just a little bit shaded darker, and my left side is more shadowed. So as you can see on this, I have this side a little more shaded, this side of that sphere, and even in the sky you can see like this side took a lot more of the darker hits than this side. So coming down, this is when you can really sharpen that line. Just like this. Okay, so I have that pretty strict line. I'm gonna have it up here too. And I'm gonna clean my brush off. And this is where we have, and we dab it off on the paper towel, and you gently brush that border, just like we did with the clouds. Okay. Nice job. If you want that darkness to come over more, totally can. I'm gonna leave it the way it is. And then I'm also gonna come down under here since this is shaded. Just gonna make this section darker too. Now coming over to the house. If you want to, see how I did a little bit of shadow under here, just because that roof is overhanging. So I'm just gonna do a tiny line right here underneath. Just like this, bringing it over. Perfect. Same thing. So on this, as you can see, there is a pretty distinct line. So if you like that, totally leave it. I actually kind of like the way it's sitting, so I'm not gonna do what we did here and bring that clean brush across, but if you want to, go for it. So now that we've done that and this is more dry, we can bring in those shaded areas. So this is where I have more gray, and I'm just adding it to that same mixing palette that I had. And then I might add a little bit of purple to it and see how that looks. The reason I'm adding purple is because I want it to be, like, I want a little bit of a red tint, but I also want it to be I'm adding a color that will look good with this. So purple has, you can see it in the sky, and it goes really well with red. So that's the color that we're going for right here. So I just did gray and a little bit of purple, and I'm coming in and really just following the lines that I drew out for you almost exactly. And if you want to, you can leave a little bit of that base color randomly throughout your section. If you make this dark color kind of pass that original line just a tad, it will help hide those outlines in your finished painting. Okay, just like this. This color is a little bit lighter than that, and it's actually a warmer base. So if you want to add cool to it, which I think we're going to add one more layer when we're done, I'm going to have that top layer be closer to this. Then I have this area right here is too dark. I need to add a little more water to my palette. Coming up. There we go. dropping in some of this darker color into here. And I'll just let it go where it wants to. I don't care much how it blends. Then I'm coming down here, doing the same. And then these like little hang off sections, I'm doing darker too. It's already coming together really pretty. Yeah, that looks great. So now we can do that base layer of green for the grass, this lighter green, and then we'll come in with the darker. But let's see how this looks. I did just mix it right over that gray. I want it to be a little bit more neutral. And the way you do that is by adding the opposite side of the color wheel, so the complementary color. And for green, that is red. So I'm adding in some red, and that just diluted it down quite a bit. Not diluted it, made it a lot more neutral. But I want it a little more cold based. So I might add a little of blue as well. Let's see how this looks. Yeah, I like that better. Okay, so now I have a good amount of water in there. And I'm just bringing that color. So your building, depending on how fast you're painting, your building might still be a little wet. So just be careful when you're lining the red. Now I'm bringing this green down in here, just painting over top of that base color that we did. Just like that. I did forget that darker shade. Right here. It goes right up to the water. Just like that. Okay, so you can kind of see this line here, and that just shows a little bit, the line was to show that it's a little bit of a shadow. So I'm literally using this same color, but I'm just diluting it down a lot with water because it's not going to be as dark as this. And then I'm just pulling it down, kind of meeting it up with this area here, just like that. And if you want to add some shadowed areas around here that are not as deep as that original color, could even do some, just adding them randomly throughout in here. Pretty. Okay, and then that rooftop over here is red as well. Just like that. Okay, so I'm gonna let this sit and dry for a minute to make sure that my red is completely dry and this is dry too, and then we'll add that darker shade of green to add some depth. And then we'll add in the black of this. And then the last thing we'll do is the ocean, which is, it looks intimidating, but is actually really simple. It's similar to how we did the sky. All right. So now that is mostly dry, I'm going to start on the black accents. So I'm literally just grabbing, like I had a little bit of water on my brush and I'm getting it real thick with this black because I want it to be really deep. And then using the tiniest tip of my brush, and I'm the lightest pressure, and I'm doing these really small lines. If you want to practice on your scratch paper beforehand, that'd be awesome, so that you feel more confident. Just like that. Top of this, I'm gonna have be black as well. So that line right there wasn't all the way dry, so that bled together, but that's okay. It's a really small section. And then I'm doing a tiny line of black, just like this. And I'm leaving under there white because I'm gonna paint it gray when I'm done. This is very tedious right here because it's just a smaller section and there's a lot of little detail right there. Then I'm leaving a tiny bit of white to show that that's a different section. Just like this. There we go. And then this up here. This little section, I forgot, was red. So I'm gonna leave that. We'll do red in a little bit, but while I have the black out, we can continue on with those little details. that. Really thin, just like that top one, or the first ones that we did down here. We're gonna do tiny because this is little railing up there. Like that. Same here. There we go. Okay. Oh, and there's a little bit of black here. Goes across, down. Just like that. And this little section. I think I'm gonna do the door black as well. There you go. There was more water in that than I wanted, so I'm lifting that up. And that will just be a gray door. Okay, and then this window here has black around it. Just like that. Okay, now we'll do the darker green. I'm adding purple to it. This is what it'll look like. Just like that. Okay, and then kind of following this section here. This is probably a little more dark than I would have wanted, but you're just kind of doing like a rough section there. Then over here on this front side of the mountain, doing shaded as well, because remember this side is going down and the sun's here. So you will see a little bit more shade in that grass. Then there's some grass that you'll just kind of dab and roughly put here and over here with this, just like that. And over here, I'm just adding some rough, darker shades of grass. Okay, so if you want to kind of blend these colors, you're doing that same thing where you kind of just have your wet brush and you're gliding it across, just like that. Really pretty. Okay, let's do the water now. So we're gonna start with our lightest shade of blue, which will probably be this one. And we'll dilute it down a lot with water. And you're gonna bring it all the way across. If you want more deep of a blue, you can try some up here. Let's see what this one will look like. Okay, these little things are kind of like showing you waves. So if you want, you can leave them white. Do your best to like leave a few little spots. And then we'll add in more of the blue. The further out in the ocean, the deeper blue that it will be for what we're doing. And then you can add some more of the brighter colors into the front here in a second. Okay, so now I have my base of the blues. And I'm gonna add a little bit of a touch of this blue. And I'm kind of doing just like horizontal strokes throughout. And honestly, I'm just doing like random sections, different colors. I don't have a whole lot of science back to it. I'm bringing the darker right here, as you can see. Just like this. And I think I'm gonna bring some of this more turquoise color, drop it in here, just like bordering the lines that I've made for you. Just like that. And then I'll grab the lighter blue, keep it diluted, and have it really touch up to the base of that mountain. Pretty. Okay, so you can be done here. If you want to add in some, like I forgot my reds, so I'm gonna bring in my red down these lines, right? But all those little white, like this is windows, obviously those are windows. Up here, there's windows there, and that top one. So, if your red is dry and your black is dry, now is the time that you can add in the blues to your window. And I'm just gonna grab my deeper blue like this and That was more water than I want. Just like this. You can even leave some white space in the window to show a little bit of reflection. But there you go. Cute. Okay, if you want more detail in your ocean, wait for that base layer to dry and then come back in and do some more horizontal, not straight, but kind of wiggly lines like I have here. You can even keep it separated into like do this color one, then the next one is a little bit different, and then those little small ones keep lighter. But other than that, I think it looks beautiful. Thanks for joining.